Of course, I'm talking about cartoonists, sequentialists, ink studs. Let's go and talk to some of them now.
That's excellent. A stupid question.
It's really stupid, and I hope you edit that out.
Okay, ask me a question, something
All right,
serious.
well,
I ain't talking politics.
Most of them are books, which I cut up and stuck things in, and so they're just arranged.
Ah. All right. You ready to go?
Yep, fine.
Someone said that, no, when they saw Seven, one of my friends said that it was like the killer's room in Seven looked like Hope Street. It might have been the Hope Street or something. So
Hope Street, huh?
Yeah. Am I loud enough? Yeah, okay.
Cool.
I think comics are kind of like ground level, but it's also like where everything happens. You know, like everything kind of filters through down to a ground level kind of thing. So it's kind of like, it's the most immediate thing where you can see actual forces in popular culture being played out to a certain extent, and it's where people are actually expressing how they feel about things. So, I mean, I think comics are really important in that way. I always want to find out how popular culture kind of works, and that's where, on a really basic level, that's where it happens in comics. I like just trying to put different images together from comics to kind of show, it's almost like the history of comics or the history of the medium, and try and show all the things that are going through my head, you know, when I'm imagining something, you know, like all the influences, where they're coming from. There's a certain way to read comics, and I think, like, I mean, that's what kind of excites me about comics in the future, is that it's almost like the future of language in a certain way, because, you know, like with the internet, with the way information is being transmitted, it needs to be images and words together, so there has to be a kind of forming of a different kind of language to be able to do that efficiently or do that properly, you know, for that kind of information. And people need to be able to read differently, I think, as well. I also think comics kind of cut across languages, say especially stuff like Jim Woodring's stuff, where it's, you know, comics can actually exist without words. Some of his stuff that he doesn't use words. There's that possibility with comics as well, as a really direct language, you know, with images.
I'm actually doing a lot of commercial work at the moment, Clint, and I'm ready to finally print up a comic that I've been waiting to be printed up for now something like 2 years, called Blanden, which should be out in the next month or so. And I've just been working for the Victorian Curriculum Board and doing some groovy drawings of cars, actually, and getting paid a lot of money to do it, rather than the work that I love to do, which is my own, and getting paid nothing for it, but getting shining letters from the comic community of Australia.
Welcome to Dillon's Womb. The art womb.
That's Jared. I'm Dillon. He's Dillon.
All right. And well, let's talk about Dribble. How's that happening?
Dribble came about, I was doing a fanzine called Krusty Play Lunch for about a year and a half or so. Got a letter from this Dillon character with a bunch of cartoons in it, and sort of found out he'd been beavering away in his own way for the good 8 or 9 years on the comic scene. We sort of decided, what the hell, let's lose money together.
It's really a move away from the comic scene. I've kind of put in my innings as a publisher. I've like thrown a fair few bucks into the pool, into the kitty, and drawn a bit of a blank. I've given my best shots and put stuff through newsagents, best stuff I could possibly do, and still didn't get enough of a reaction, enough of a sales figure from it. I just figured they were in there with the wrong sort of competition. It's I feel it's a bit offbeat what I was trying to do, and it just wasn't really working. So I decided to move more into the magazine market and separate myself from comics. I mean, I've got one comic, Dillon, which is doing quite nicely as a comic, but distributed through show bags. But I figured it was comics were perhaps going to be a bit better received by maybe a slightly more intelligent audience inside Drivel. We've got the usual crowd that we're self-publishing anyway, and we're trying to like give them space within the magazine. So yeah, we've got Edo of Finn comic. We've got
Mr.
Greg Gates, long-time cartoonist. We've got Ian Eddy. We've got yourself. We've pulled in some guys from New Zealand that have sent some stuff over. Ant Sang and someone Rogers. I'm sure he'll forgive me. I can't remember his name. And yeah, it's turning into the comic section in the centre of the mag's turning into a type of anthology book of cartoonists. I'm like writing most of the scripts for it at the moment, and reprinting a lot of stuff that I've done that never saw print in its day. So we're trying to keep a pretty high standard of the stuff that goes in there, attempting to separate it from what's usually perceived as a fanzine. We go to great lengths to call ourselves a magazine.
Murky is a state of mind that I invented about 6 months ago. I've kind of forgotten what it really means, but it's kind of like falling in love, but you need a lot of drugs to really achieve it. Well, mostly I get them when I'm walking down the street, or just something happens to me and I've got to write it down because I can't deal with it or whatever, and you just think, oh, that's a really nuts situation, that's just a comic book moment, so you just got to write it down. I either draw at this desk, at the desk in there, or on my knee at other people's houses.
When did you start drawing comics?
When I was in high school.
Started just the usual stuff in high school, self-publishing little fanzines.
I used to write for the student newspaper and stuff, used to do illustrations for the articles and like front covers and comics and stuff. Used to do big full-page comics, and they had a 14-hour deadline for that because they were so disorganized. So they'd call you up at about 8 and you had to have it done by the next morning, and it had to be good, and I was using brushes then, so it's taken me ages, and yeah, I just kind of learned how to do it really quickly under like a lot of pressure.
In some cases there was comics just one of each. I'd do it in biro onto the back of school assignment sheets, staple them all together, hand colour the cover with textures, and that would be just the one comic, and I'd distribute that around my friends and like total strangers, get this mass circulation around high school, and I'd get the thing back. Like it'd be all tattered, but I'd actually get it back after about a month. People were just like handing it to each other.
I guess I always read comics, for as long as I could remember, and I was always interested. I went to art school, and I started using comics because I was trying to. That's what my work was about, was trying to find out how popular culture works and trying to put it together with art images to see how that played out. And then after a while I just kind of thought, well, why am I even bothering with the art bit? I should just be making comics. Especially like my experience at art school, everyone was trying out ideas, but it's in this really sterile environment, like in the gallery environment, which is like this white cube kind of sterile thing. But when you make comics, or it's a really direct medium, and you're actually, I actually feel like I'm involved in popular culture in a more direct way, and the ideas are getting tested properly, because someone will say, hey, this doesn't make sense, or this is bullshit. So you've got to kind of really try to communicate rather than be in this esoteric kind of art world and say like, oh well, because I'm an artist or because it's in a gallery, it doesn't need to have direct communication with the viewer or the reader or whatever. Because I could try out my ideas in a more direct kind of way with comics, And plus it felt really comfortable. I really enjoyed doing it.
I got feedback from people in the street and stuff, but my lecturers didn't really dig it too much. Even though you've got like comic book artists appearing in major art mags all over the world and stuff, they still don't really, unless you're painting or, doing large-scale drawings.
Yeah, it's been teaching cartooning out at Box Hill TAFE, which is on the 1st of August if this gets to air by that time, so get your $125 together and come and see me for 7 weeks, and We learn about cartooning and a bit about how to draw. I don't worry about the how to draw so much because people have their own individual styles and they can do what they like. And we make a comic book by the end of the class, which is like a small press photocopied A5 comic book.
Now your stuff is sort of more, could you say, iconographic or something, rather than being very realistic. So why do you prefer to do it like that?
Because I can't draw real, but I make up for it by doing lots of shading, and I am amazed at the amount of people who really think I'm Mr. Skill and like my work a lot, but that's the way I've drawn. I just do a lot of cross-hatching, yaya crumb.
At the start, the stuff that influenced me was like, because I was pretty much not being in contact with people, was mostly overseas, so there was like Paul Mavreeds, Robert Williams, this woman Melinda Gebby, but they were all people that were mixing and matching styles, you know, like just different kind of styles of drawing, so that really attracted me, and that's kind of what pushed me towards doing collage. I get excited by seeing anybody do anything really, you know, so it's hard to say what I like. I would be drawing stuff like drawing images and drawing it myself from other artists, and I had lecturers say, well, that just looks like you drawing something. So I thought, oh, well, you know, I may as well just use the actual image rather than, you know, do a second-hand drawing of it. So I started doing that, and that just extended into the comics, you know. I got comments like, one of the lecturers kind of said, oh, well, you know, Tim, I come into the studio and you're always reading, you know, and reading's good, but you're always reading comics. They get incensed when I use fine art images, you know, and say, oh, well, you're taking this out of context and that's really bad. I always thought by the time I got to art school that wouldn't be there, you know, there wouldn't be that kind of high art, low art type of bullshit, you know, because people have been trying to break that down for ages, but it was still there and really strong. So, you know, they really hated that I used comics. They hated that I didn't actually draw stuff. I've also got this mail order distribution thing for small press, I don't know, whatever the latest term is. Xerox, photocopied, whatever, comics, you know.
Trailer Trash is a big favourite. I really dug this one. It took me ages to actually get them all together, all 6 of them, before Tundra got sold or whatever to Kitchen Sink. That was just a big influence on me in high school, and, you know, just the way he drew really influenced me for a little while and, you know, got me working pretty hard. And No Hope is also a big favourite. I've only got a few of these, but it's kind of autobio and it's super depressing. I got a lot of inspiration from Vaughn Baudet because of his unique approach to what he was up to and the way he structures his page. Well, I'm working on a 3rd episode, and that's my only goal right now, is to get that one finished and maybe contribute to a few other zines, because a few people have approached me and I'm really interested in getting together with some other people, working with other people and stuff.
I just stumbled upon the right guy who got me talking to the owner of a show bag company and was looking for an Australian product to go into show bags rather than using leftovers that didn't sell at the newsagents. They were finding they were having trouble with censorship and various things. People would complain if there was a violent subject in, like, even Superman or something like that. They wanted exact numbers of a product that they could reliably know was pretty wholesome and clean, and I provided them that, and that went really well. So now I do two comics a year for the Showbag company, and now it's in its 5th year, and it's now the most widely read comic in Australia, including any American comic that comes over, because it's numbers of 300,000 of each issue hidden inside this bag. Kids are really responsive and send in heaps of drawings and their own ideas. I started off doing band posters for bands like Fireballs, and they were interested in having a comic book about them. They sold fantastically. It went really well through newsagents and really well through shock distribution, through independent record stores, and enough so to do a follow-up. The band love it. I've heard anecdotes of them actually acting out scenes from the comic. Yeah, well, I'm just about through, like, sending them to hell and having them chased by three-headed dogs and that. So I decided on this fantastic idea of actually using the real stories, which are much weirder,